live, and this is what's streaming.
Okay. The Board of Commissioners will reconvene now? Chris, come up, or, yep. So in microphones here.
Okay, Commissioner Bennett asked me to come on up
Just
and
so-
talk
would you-
about wind farms and economically significant wind farms,
Mhm.
large solar farms. So in January, Todd usually has a quarterly meeting of regional planning for the zoning inspectors. And in January, one of the zoning inspectors, they went over Senate Bill 52.
Mhm.
So that was from Shayla, Greg Benner,
Yep.
the zoning inspector. And I think Township contacted Commissioner Bennett, and Commissioner Bennett and I were talking, and Commissioner asked if he would come on up and talk about the new legislation. Senate Bill 52, one of the things about that, it grants a lot of authority to the Board of County Commissioners. You can restrict or prohibit utility facilities as defined in the ORC in all or a portion of the unincorporated areas of the county. And your authority is in these 5 sections of the ORC. Don't get caught up on the numbers, but 303, 58 through 62. In the first 2 sections, 58 and 59, what I call proactive. I'll get into that. The other 2 sections are what I call reactive. And I'll show you kind of why in a second here.
Okay.
Sam, if you could just flip it on your own, I mean, whatever's easier.
Try that. Not working?
There you go, okay. Key here is it's permissive authority. What that means is it's discretionary. It's not mandatory. It's in your sound discretion, so you have the call as to whether or not you're going to want to go this direction. Okay, utility facility is defined. It's all statutory. Those are the 3 aspects you can regulate. And again, you can restrict or prohibit in all or part of the unincorporated areas of the county.
Which is the 18 townships.
Correct.
Just for record, it's not the villages or the cities.
Correct, yes, just the unincorporated areas. Economically significant wind farms, I won't go over that, that's all in the statute. We can all read it together. From a technical aspect, I would defer to exactly the specifics of that. I know it speaks for itself, but when you're talking megawatts and less than 50 megawatts and what have you, that's something that if we have any questions, we want to defer to the people who are actually in
Okay.
the power sector. Large wind farm, that's the definition. And then large solar farm, they're all statutory definitions. Okay, now the process is relatively straightforward. You set a public meeting, you have to do notice in the paper, time, place, and date, at least 30 days before. You have to post a map showing the boundaries of the proposed restricted area at all public libraries in the county. Provide written notice by first-class mail to all school districts, municipal corporations, and boards of township trustees within the boundaries of the proposed restricted area. At your meeting, after the meeting, if you want to go this direction, you adopt a resolution designated the restricted area, including a map of the restricted area and a text sufficient to identify the boundaries. An important factor of this, because whenever, this is land use regulation, and inherent in that, there's that balance between a landowner's right to use his or her property for the purposes they want versus the local government's right to regulate according to the authority that's been granted to you. So there's always a tension there. And even though this isn't a zoning regulation, it's a lot like zoning in that if you look at the case law on zoning, there's a million cases, and whenever you're restricting somebody's right to use their property, if there's a lot at stake, a lot of times that ends up in litigation. So it's always kind of there's a tension there, and it's kind of, it can always be something you gotta be careful with. Within 30 days after the adoption of the resolution, if a petition signed by 8% of those who voted in the last governor's election is submitted to this board, then the board would have to send the resolution to the Board of Elections, and they would have to put it on the ballot, and then the people in the county would vote on it, which is kind of nice. This is a safeguard against getting sued. You never.
So when you say sued, and we do that, is each individual entity of the townships separate, or when we make a judgment, it's all 18?
That's your judgment call. You can do one area, you can do 2 areas, whatever areas you want to go is up to the board.
Mhm.
So if you want to limit it to one particular township, The only concern I have, and it's not a concern because the law allows it, and with this referendum process, it gives us some safeguards against lawsuits. You never can safeguard entirely against getting sued, you know that. And who knows, this is a new statute. People challenge statutes all the time for constitutionality. But here, at least with the referendum process,
They have the process to overturn it.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
gives us something to argue in court. But like you're saying, Commissioner, yeah, one of the things with land use regulation, arbitrariness is sometimes fatal. So you always want to have like a rationale, like in zoning. Again, it's not a zoning matter, but in zoning, you know, it's based upon the health, safety, general welfare of the community. And like with township zoning, it goes through regional planning, it goes through the zoning commission, it goes through the trustees. So there's a process where everybody can determine, was this a proper land use?
Mhm.
Here, you guys are it. That means the commissioners are it. You make the call. So the burden and the weight is on the board to determine, are you gonna do this prohibition or not? So it's, you know, a lot of authority you have.
Okay.
Okay, now let's look at this. This is what I call the reactive approach. What's nice about this legislation, if you don't take the initiative and actually be proactive and prohibit these aspects, these small wind, large wind farms, large solar farms, what have you, you can essentially sit back. And here's what has to occur. If somebody wants to apply to the Power Siting Board, at least 90 days, but not more than 300 days before applying for a certificate to that state board, they have to send this board notice and the Board of Township Trustees notice, and they have to have a public meeting in the county. And under this statute, .62, the Board of Commissioners has the authority within 90 days after that public meeting to adopt your own resolution to prohibit or actually limit this facility that these folks want to put in. So if you don't actually do the proactive approach, and if you take the reactive approach and wait for the folks to have to come to you,
Mhm.
that's one way of approaching it. But the law does allow you to go the proactive approach. However, if you do nothing, if no resolution is adopted, and if somebody wants to get a certificate from the state, then it goes forward with the state, and the state makes their call like they would in any other situation. That's it.
Do we have any in the county?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, what is it? Oh, come on in, Ronnie.
Hey, Ron. Morning.
This is trustee Ron Gutowski from Shalersville.
Yeah. You can have a
We
seat.
had received a resolution indicating that Shalersville does not want to allow any larger commercial wind and solar farms.
This is
And
Greg
then-
Benner, our trust.
Hi.
Hey, Greg.
Morning.
And I talked to Columbiana County because they've been in the news lately that they have already prohibited it in 6 townships, and they have 7 more coming forward that do not want to allow it. And they basically said, what they do is they rely on the trustees at those townships to decide, because they know their communities better than we do, if they want to allow it, if they don't, if they want to have certain areas that they would allow it, then they would pass a resolution, which is what Shalersville sent to me, and I passed on to Chris, that their desire is to prohibit any of the larger commercial wind and solar. If they're of a smaller scale, which is, I think it's Senate Bill 501, it's under the discretion of the trustees. But Senate Bill 52 puts the larger scales to the county commissioner for authority. And so that's why I asked Chris to come in, because we basically have already received a request not to allow in Shalersville Township. And again, there are people, because I've been contacted by 2 or 3 residents, that the solar and wind farm companies are contacting them to lease their land until they get approval from the siting board. And so that's why I wanted Chris to come in, because it's all a timing thing, as far as once they start the process and once we have to start our process of not allowing, because we have to do the public hearings and there's so many days, and which Michelle had shared a document that lays that out pretty well as to what our steps are. So that's that's why I've asked Chris to come in here, so we don't miss the window of opportunity
So-
and the desires of the trustees.
So what we just went through, if we say we're going to prohibit them, we can change that, and Shalersville could come in and say, no, I really want when they, and so each one of the townships, after we say prohibit, they can come up and say yay or nay. We want to participate. We want to have wind farms or solar panels in. They have gone to the other side saying we don't even want that in our township.
Yeah,
So we could pass and go forward with all this, and then each township could say, hey, we really
Individually.
like to do this, and we could say yea or nay to them. As Shalerville has said, no, we don't want this at all. Is that the whole township?
Yeah, we've had land use plans, we're redoing our land use plan right now, so we've had public meetings.
Could you please identify yourself?
Oh, Ron Kukowski, Shalerville Township
No,
trustee.
thank you.
We've had land use plan meetings, and we brought this solar issue up, the solar and the wind. And it was very unanimous that the people did not want it in
Mhm.
the township. So we thought we would get ahead of it before someone leases a piece of property and then comes and says, well, hey, I'm ahead of you because.
yeah,
Mhm.
you're affecting me economically. And the other thing, as I had asked, is I asked if Chris could help us draft a letter that we could send out to each of the township to be more proactive versus reactive every time something comes
Mhm.
up. Because I do know that's how Columbiana County's doing it, because they have like 6 counties. We can have the public hearing, one public hearing for multiple townships. And instead of having to do 18
Just township association
processes.
meeting.
Yeah, and I had asked Chris if he would help us draft a letter to the trustees so that we could be proactive versus reactive every time and save a lot of time and effort. And Chris, I don't know, because it's not zoning that we're setting, because obviously this comes to the commissioners, but what if we had a township like Shalersville? They're saying, no, we don't want it today. But then over the course of time, they say, hey, commissioners, it's been out enough time, long enough. We think we feel comfortable to maybe have, a specific area that we would allow it. How would that work for us to, reverse what we've done? But would we just have to start the whole process of the hearing and all that over, or?
Yeah, the statute allows that. You would just hold another public meeting,
Okay.
similar to like when you're amending your zoning code. You're right, it's not zoning, but there's a lot of similarities. But yeah, if this year you decided to, if the board was of that mind to go that direction
Yeah.
to prohibit it throughout Shalersville, if 5 years from now, if the folks from Shalersville, the officials come forward and say, hey, let's only do this particular area of Shalersville and not maybe another area,
Yeah.
then you just amend it.
Because there's a lot, I think a lot of the people are very hesitant because, well, first of all, there's a lot of fear mongering for people that are opposed to it. But I think over time, that attitude may change as they see, how other communities that have allowed it work. That's why I wanted to say, I wanted to make sure it wasn't something that once we're done, we miss the opportunity to ever allow it again, which normally that's not how it works anyways.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure, because right now I think everyone's just hesitant. They're like, no, let's not allow it at this time. But over time, it's sort of like the fracking, they go out and lease all this land and stuff, even though they'll probably never put a well there or whatever, but they just like to have that land tied up. So, because I know, my stepdad has a huge farm in Columbiana, and he's already signed a lease out there to lease it for solar, but he has like over 100 and some acre farm. And where it's at, its neighbors are few and far between, so, but the concern is unless they have that certificate or from the siting board, it doesn't matter. I mean, they can stop it.
And we can
so.
go either way. We could say we're going to prohibit at this time the whole count, all 18, and then in 2 years, 5 years, the Board of Commissioners could say, we could change that because Shalersville's changed their mind. Okay. So the authority sits here, no matter which way we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the thing, they pushed it back on the commissioners, that the legislators did, and that's why I would rather be proactive, and I wanted
Yep.
Chris to sort of help us draft a letter, because it's just now, they're just now starting to move into Portage to lease the land. And I think it's because they're getting resistance in Columbiana. So they're coming out here and trying, because we've got a lot of farmland. And so I would rather hit this head on than, you know, not do it at all. And again, we just work with the local
Yep.
trustees.
Mike?
Yeah, I asked a question 10 minutes ago, but I got kind of talked over. Did you hear me when I asked, do we have any in Portage County right now?
I'm not aware of any myself.
Nor am I.
I don't believe.
And the reactive and proactive on what you sent us, I read the statute, and I think we're in a driver's seat regardless. So Shalersville says we don't want it, they don't want it. It's pretty simple.
So we're gonna do this with all the other 17. Get that letter, and maybe have the township association meeting, the next one coming up, so have a discussion, so they know we're gonna talk about that? Would that be?
Maybe we should try to get on there, or have an informational
Right.
meeting.
We're ready to move.
You know,
Yeah,
and
they
you
are.
can, and we've got
Yeah.
17 others, so rather than having 17 more meetings and have 17 more people or 34 come up, we could maybe it's township association meeting, say, hey, this is what it is, this is what's happening, information, and how do you, each one of you, the townships,
Yeah, I think you guys will
Leave
be
it.
okay.
Might be more, quicker and more effective to send letters to all.
correct, first the letters, hey, we want to do this,
Yeah.
and anybody could reach out and tell us yay, nay, so, but we have everybody.
We put a moratorium on the small to mid-sized.
Small ones, okay.
A 9-month moratorium to give our zoning board a chance to get ahead of this
Mm-hmm,
before they get hit with something that they're not
yeah.
ready to deal with.
Send Greg door to door.
What's that?
Send Greg door to door.
Yeah.
And you can check on dog licenses while you're out there.
Okay, so Kristen, can you help us draft, and then do we wanna host like an informational, I think we should
I
host
would.
like an
Yeah.
informational session, Chris, and have you there to help us, with the information, so they understand, and then they can get back to us, because some townships may be like, hey, let our farmers that have these, let them profit what they can, they'll make more money from this and not care, and then we'll have other ones that don't have any desire, or you may have some, like you said, that can do certain areas that they allow, which gets a little trickier in my mind, because how do you pick and choose who you allow to benefit from this and not? So,
It's gonna be location. It's gonna basically down to
In
that.
Shalersville, you know, we have a big development going on right now, so we have some
Yeah.
resistance from a few residents that are saying, hey, how did this happen? You know, and then we throw something else at them, and they're like, absolutely not,
Not
they
yet.
don't want anything. And you're right,
Yeah.
maybe 5 years down the road, people's minds might change. The technology might change and make it more efficient.
yeah,
You know,
A wind
less
turbine might not be
annoying.
200 feet high.
You know, because for people, especially the wind farms, you know, they're annoying
yeah.
for a lot of
Well, you know,
people.
the biggest concerns with these is the disposal of them.
Yeah.
Once they're like
Disposal of the blades and.
done, and even for the solar. And so, I don't know if you guys have ever driven by like Kent State at night. Have you ever driven by and the stadium be lit up at night? Do you know why that is? Because that's all fed through solar, and once that builds up, they have to release it in order to recharge it. And I mean, I drive by there at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, what is going on at the stadium? And it's because they have to burn that off in order to recharge it.
So recap, we're gonna get a letter to each township. We're gonna set up a time that we can meet with all 18 if they choose to have them help us make a decision on what we wanna do. And then we'll go from there, and then if we're,
Yeah, have an
Yep.
educational,
and everybody has it, and then they can tell us what they wanna do in their township.
and I know the trustees, because I get the Ohio trustees thing, they've been talking about it as well with the townships going through, because you guys do have the authority on the smaller, but they've also been talking about the larger solar wind farms, so they should have some inkling of an idea about it, but it's best just to educate them, and then they can get back to us.
So,
Great.
Chris, so the way I read it, they, as a board, could, if Shaylorsville agreed to, say, 5 years from now, make, an energy district, they call it, an ED, within Shadersville.
Okay.
So they could say that this plot right here, we're okaying for energy development. And then at that time, so say that went through and was okayed and there was solar or energy put up. Down the road, could the commissioners again, if Shalersville approached them, say, okay, we have another area that we'd like to qualify as an energy district, and then allow that, so over time, there could possibly, you know, and this is all just a scenario, possibly different ED districts throughout the township.
Yeah, you raise an excellent point. When it comes to the energy improvement districts, we were just talking about that at the Port Authority this week. And that's a little different there. In this situation, the way that might unfold is if you wanted to put some of the township, allow it to have the large solar farms, you would come back to this board and the board could almost just rescind that portion of it. For an energy improvement district, the township approves that, or the municipality, the county's out of it. And we were talking about this with Brad, because the Port Authority's thinking about getting into that. Because there's a place down in Suffield, the meadery, or the fellow who has that, is it like a drink?
Ken.
Ken. He's thinking about, like, if you put, you could put just a parcel in an energy improvement district. That allows you for special financing and it's a financing tool to do energy improvements. So if you wanna do an energy improvement district, you guys would make the call in the actual district itself.
I see.
But you would have to get the board to pull back that area that's prohibited.
I see.
So, yeah, it can be worked through, but it's different players involved.
So Chris, what do we need to do to move this one forward, since we already have this resolution that was passed by Shalersville?
Well,
Should we wait or do each individual township by themselves?
it's up to the board. I mean, to get the response from the other townships is probably gonna take a little while.
I know, that's why I'm asking on this one, I don't wanna delay it to the point that something goes through and we've sat on this, that's why I'm asking.
If you wanted to make this one your test case,
Yeah,
put this one apart from all the other townships, then if you're ready to possibly move on it, then you just follow the process where you would wanna set it for a hearing, and you're actually gonna have to post those boundaries in the public libraries and send notice to Crestwood and
to the school boards.
and the
Yeah.
municipalities and
Mhm.
Shalersville, whatever, touch on that, like Manaway, what have you.
Chris, do you think we can get the rest of the townships in the next 4 weeks, that we could have some kind of meeting to just do this all at once and get everybody the same thing, because we're gonna be posting over and over and
Yeah.
do it together?
We can get the letter out real quick. I mean, I can draft it within a few days,
Mhm.
send
Okay.
it up to you, but then it depends on how the.
When's the next township meeting?
Our
It's
next
only
week, we
quarterly.
meet, first and third
Okay,
Tuesdays
Tuesday?
in Shalersville.
So it
Okay.
won't be next Tuesday, the following Tuesday.
Okay, but for the rest of the townships, that we just had 1 month, so that's gonna be,
No, we're
Yeah.
talking about the township association.
Association.
That's what I say, they only
Yeah.
meet quarterly,
Yeah,
so
yes.
our next one is in May, cause it's at Mickey's. It should be
Yeah.
at Mickey's, which would be a good one, cause that's
yeah.
the most well-attended one, so. That we.
So
There
the-
again, you may not have all the townships.
Right, and there's usually 16 of the 18 there. There's usually 1 or 2. And if they knew we were gonna do this, maybe we'd get all 18 of them
Yeah.
in the same room there, but,
As long as we're not behind the 8 ball, we're okay with, you know, you guys taking your time to do what you need to do. We just don't, we were worried that someone would come in and say, well, I already got a lease from this person and, you know, I wanna
Okay.
move forward and I'm grandfathered to have you. That's what we
Mhm.
wanna avoid.
And that's what we need you, Chris, to find out if there's any reason that we should move it forward or if
Even
they
if you
delay.
didn't make the ruling, could you do a moratorium until you
We
do?
can't do a moratorium. I think I looked into that. Kristen, didn't we talk about that? You
Yeah,
can't.
I think if you're worried about Shalersville, maybe,
just make a resolution next week and,
and set it for a public meeting and get the
Yep.
notices out
okay.
and get going on
And
that.
it just has to be Shalerville that we do the public notice for?
Yeah, they're the only ones that have so far responded, yeah,
Yeah.
you wanna limit it to Shalersville.
So-
And then, you know what, then we'll at least, it's one township that we're dealing with, and at least we'll be familiar with the process, cause I know there's other ones that are gonna come through, and then maybe that's where we can clump them, so that we can have the hearings with multiple townships. Save the time.
Okay, so,
Chris, could I ask you a question? So is there anything, and, you know, I'm not a lawyer, so I had a hard time reading House Bill 52 thoroughly. is there anything in that bill that restricts like any government agencies or say Parks and Recreation from being exempt to like townships? So in other words, say we have 2 parks in our township, and say we were to restrict or, prohibit solar, large and small. Is there any loopholes or ways around any other groups that would be exempt from our exclusions?
Yeah, like you're saying, say if the state owned a big stretch of land, would the state allow it? I'll check on that, I didn't see it in there. I know for that energy improvement district, that would exclude like a municipality or like some of the governmental agencies. But for this, I don't recall seeing it in there, I'll double check. Do you have any of that in Shaler'sville?
We have 2 parks and possibly there's talk of purchase of another property that is a mining pit that has been mined out. There's talk of Western Reserve and Park
Portage
District,
Park.
Portage Parks getting together and purchasing that.
There'd be a
so-
difference between state and Portage Parks.
Yeah.
Portage Parks is us, isn't, yeah.
Well, it is, but, Chris Craycroft and her board are,
Mhm.
they're a little bit a separate body,
Mhm.
appointed by the
Yeah,
probate
they're not,
court.
yeah.
So,
But they're not the state.
correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they're more like a.
That's a good point, whether or not a parkland or a conservancy district, because I know Chris, a lot of times, puts land in conservancy districts, and that's like a separate entity.
Mhm.
Right.
Would they put a big windmill on there or not?
That would be pretty sad if they did.
I can't imagine,
But-
but you never know.
But you bring up a good
They
question.
do.
It's just a thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Look
so
at all
we know
these
more
parks in
detail.
this handy
Yeah,
dandy map.
yeah. So if you thought of it, somebody else might think of it too.
Very
So
good.
yeah, if you could let us know if Portage Parks could supersede our authority by saying, by doing that on their property without asking us. Yeah?
I'll look into that.
Okay.
All right, so then, just to recap, then you'll get back to us with a letter that we can review, and then we'll get out. And then, do you wanna try to do it?
Well,
I think maybe
I
at the
think that'd be-
township meeting
At
would be the
Mickey's,
best
and,
place at
and
Mickey's.
if we want to do a resolution to protect Shaler'sville, because they've gone through this, we could do a resolution that
Yeah.
separates you guys, you're done, and the other 17 have to do
Leave
that.
them out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Since you have to you have 30 days notice for a public meeting to do Shaler'sville, would you want to, not trying to rush it, but would you want to set that today, like?
Yeah,
set days?
yeah,
absolutely.
I think we should,
Yeah, yeah.
Because
so-
we got this on the 8th of March, and so they had an emergency meeting. That's how serious they are taking this, so I.
So 30 days from today.
Well, you have to give 30 days notice, so it's going to take a while.
We're gonna get it in the
to do
paper.
Right, sure.
So, what do you-
No, but that's what I mean, from like this week or next week, 30 days, right, Amy? So a week, put that out there? Yeah, is that enough? Yeah. So from today is, so the beginning of April.
Yeah, how would like say maybe the second week in May? Would that be soon? I'm just thinking by the time.
When's the township meeting? And the association meeting.
Oh, I don't know when that is.
Hold on.
Quarterly.
Talk to you.
Is it that dire of an importance to get this done in the next month or 2 months or by June? Make that decision.
Well, that's what we're asking, we don't know.
Yeah. and
This
that's
is all new
like
to us all too.
Chris was
Yeah.
saying,
You don't know
maybe we
who's in
should,
the pipeline, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
we should do it.
Yeah.
I don't wanna wait because we've already waited a couple weeks more than we probably
Yeah.
should have.
So, yeah, so let's set, Amy will give us, she'll do that and as soon as possible, put that in the paper so we can
And
have
here's my next
call a meeting.
question, should we have it in the evening or during the day? Because it doesn't matter. I know it's at our discretion, but
I believe an evening meeting. I do, the morning meeting, so many people work.
yeah.
And I think an evening meeting, 6:30 or 7 in the evening, have that.
I took off work to come here.
Exactly, and that's exactly what happens.
Right.
If somebody that's really concerned does take a day off, but the general people that you're a trustee and they may not be that, but they may have an opinion, I think let them go to work, come home and participate versus having it at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I think that would not be
Yeah, we
fair.
can
And
have
you
it
want us at
evening.
the meeting.
I would, yes, absolutely, oh, yes, absolutely.
And will we have it here? Do you think, I mean, you guys know the amount of people that come because we can only allow so many people in here.
At your,
That's the
how many
fire
people
code,
can you
but-
guys have?
Oh, we have a whole town hall.
But, so, I mean,
We can go
we
there.
can, we can go there.
remote
I
on
like
Zoom.
that because you're closer to me.
Whatever.
Yeah,
The
so,
only thing we'd have to
No,
do
it's
is
convenient for
make
his
sure the
residents.
town hall isn't rented out.
yeah.
Because we do rent it out.
So once we get that, we could set the, we could reach out to you, set the date.
Yeah, if you could reach out to our
Yep.
fiscal officer and she can find out if the.
Jill
town hall's
Corbett.
available. Or
Amy-
if you have a date.
Amy,
now, I can-
well,
We
can you
don't have a
reach
date.
out to
No,
Jill
we'll have to do
Corbett?
that.
She's the one that signed the fiscal officer for this, and then we'll have Amy and Jill coordinate a date.
Okay, I'll let Jill know.
Yep.
So you have to have the notice in all the public libraries too, so that's quite a few.
Yeah.
Someone will have to
The,
post it.
all public libraries?
Yeah,
The whole
that's-
county?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
the
the statute
entire
says, it's kinda
county.
unique, even in Kent and stuff, you would think, cause.
That
it's
wouldn't pertain
incorporated.
to this, but they want.
So they, so this is opened up to the meeting that we'll have, this first one, is the whole county has opportunity to participate at
Absolutely.
Shaler'sville?
Yeah, that's-
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good.
It's not just Shaler'ville.
Yeah, so that's why it's probably best that we go to the town hall.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can
Are you gonna have cookies and snacks? It'll be late, Ron.
We can.
I always encourage
Ron,
that.
would-
Depends on how it
will you
goes.
have wine?
No, that would not be a good.
Not the proper place. Okay, so we've got that, we'll set up a meeting, in Shaler'sville, the first one, and we'll start the process getting that, the public to know that we're gonna have that meeting, set a date. It's gonna be in Shaler'sville, and then can move forward with yours and then do it at the Township Association meeting, with Mickey's in May, and then, we could start anybody else that would wanna start,
And Amy,
participate that.
can you contact Lori Kelsey to make sure we can get on that agenda?
Yeah, I was trying to find out when the next meeting.
20th or something like that?
I didn't see it, I didn't have it on my calendar.
No,
Let's see here.
I just sent her an email.
okay. Good enough, gentlemen? All right, great. All right,
Thanks for
thank you
coming
guys.
in.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
and
taking the
Chris,
morning
thanks
off.
For helping us with this and get this through.
There you go. You funny guy, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Chris.
Take care.
What's that?
Just looking, no,
We just had public comment. Oh, but I do have a couple things I wanna go
public
over.
comment 11.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate you.
You know, I forgot
Have a
to
nice
put
day.
that.
See you around, folks.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. The, actually, April every year is National County Government Month, and CCAO is, running a special social media campaign focusing on the 4 pillars of county government, which is like justice, public safety, roads, economy, employment, services for children, families, seniors, and veterans. And I am gonna go ahead and sign the county up to get these, cause what they will do is they will customize a graphic, each week that has like our county, name and our flag, that'll have an image reflecting, and the reason, reflecting one of the 4 topics that we cover. Like week 1 is gonna be something we can put on our social media, our web pages and stuff, focusing on how we, fund like justice and public safety. And they will send us, an image each week, with a customized graphic with our name and flag each week in April to use on social media platforms, websites, emailing, etc. Just to let people know what county commissioners do. So,
Mhm.
and it's free.
I think it's great.
just
That's
something-
my next
I'll
question.
yeah. Oh
Great.
no, it's free, and it'll help us get it, and we can put it on our webpage.
Mm-hmm.
I got to sign up today with it because I couldn't remember my password, so they just sent it to me. So, but that'll be good for us to display.
Yeah. Mike?
Sounds good to me.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Oh, and the other thing is NACO this year. I am interested in going to NACO. I don't know.
What is Mako?
NACO.
Na-
It's the
NACO.
the National Association of County Commissioners. We belong
Is that in DC
to.
or?
No. Well, sometimes they have it in DC. It's the national. So each year they move it across the country.
Mhm.
This year it's going to be in Texas. But I'm interested, Vicki and I went before. This year, I'm interested because the buttons or the topics that they are having are like the ones that are near and dear to all of us. It has to do with housing, affordable housing. It has to do with funding like justice systems. It's all the hot buttons that everyone's talking about in the commissioner's world. And it is gonna be, hold on here. Featured resources. Oh, here it is. Here's the items that they're gonna focus on. Mental health and community well-being, because you know mental health is our hot button too. County economies, housing affordability and the prosperity of people, infrastructure, land use and resiliency, county leadership, governance, and operations. Those are the focus on the critical issues this year. And this year, it is actually going to be in Austin, Texas, July 21st through the 24th. So I am going to register to go, and I just wanted to share. You guys should be receiving the same emails, but I am going to go ahead and sign up and see. I just wanted to see
Yeah.
if that's something you guys would be interested in. I know I'm going to a housing conference for affordable housing that I'm going with Habitat on in April. I'll be in, I think we're going to San Diego for that one.
May
but
20th, that's okay.
it's sort of like,
Yeah. Amy could concur or confirm May 20th is the Township Association, and we can get with Lori and tell her that we
yeah.
bring Chris, and we could do that and be one of the speakers. So that's there. That may make the 2 or 3 townships that aren't there sometimes to be there. That'd be a good.
Because this is real important for
Yeah.
them. Like I said, I know it's been going on in Columbiana, but they're getting rejection there, so they're moving in here. I
Mhm.
had like 3 people contact me on it.
Yep. Okay.
So,
Okay. Is there anything else to come before the board? Any public comment, Amy?
we gotta wait until
Yeah,
11.
okay.
We'll
Okay.
recess.
Let's go into go to recess now until 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Alrighty.
All right. All right, board is back in session. Is there anything else to come before the board? Anybody?
I do not have anything else.
I'd like to read a letter that was sent in regards to what the commissioner's done with the food banks. It's from a gentleman named John Wickershammer from Allen Aircraft. I want to let you know that I wrote a letter to the editor of the Portager and made it in last Friday. Usually I'm not very political, but I thought that what you did was brilliant. The editor had permission to respond as well. Let Tony and the board know that too. I know he hears in the beach when people don't like things, so it's good to hear positive comments once in a while. By the way, it struck a nerve. Apparently, a lot of people agreed. I have to say that bravo, and here is St. Patrick's Day. The readers give $1 million for food and needy people is unprecedented in our county, said David Shea, Executive Director of Community Action Council. This right here, to the Portage County Commissioners for allocating and distributing these funds to the hungry. Bravo. Hope other counties follow suit. I also read the Portager about how the commissioners are trying to ensure to keep the administrative fees down. I think it is great. However, as a businessman, I realize that there will be administrative fees incurred in allocating $1 million in funds. I don't believe some folks realize it does cost money to, well, administer the funds like this. The key is this striking balance between someone who can handle distributing this much food and minimize administrative fees. Sorry for being wordy. Best regards, John Wickershammer.
No, thank you. That was nice.
That's it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn?
Second,
Roll call, please.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Mike,
yes.
Tony?
Yes. Thank you. We will not be meeting next Tuesday, the 28th. Well, next Thursday, the 30th.
If I already got it flipped
Got
over.
it.